In the post-independent India, when modern institutions were being set up, the Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Technology, they were all iconic institutions which were set up with the help of mostly institutions from abroad, from US, UK, Germany. Their help was taken. And almost the same thing was followed when Fashion Institute was set up. For example, we took the help of Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. But most of these institutions, if you look at, they were the institutions abroad, the Ivy League universities, or FIT for that matter, they were single campus institutions mostly. But in India, the format which was followed by the government was very different. Because being a large country, in every state there was requirement probably, and the Indian Institute of Technology expanded initially to 3-4 Indian Institute of Technology, and Indian Institute of Management became ABC, Ahmedabad, Bangalore and Calcutta, and it stayed that way for a long time. And when NID was set up in 1961 and later NIFT was set up in 1986, these institutions also had the same kind of questions posed to them or at various stages. And NIFT between 86 to 92, 93 was still a single campus institute. The institute changed locations from the Samrat Hotel to the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium and then to the Hoskas, the first campus in Delhi, which was sort of main campus to look up to. And NID was the Paldi campus on the bank of Sabarmati. Now, when NIFT was conceived, it was not really supposed to have too many such campuses across India. It was supposed to be an iconic single standalone campus, which will then generate, singularly accomplished designers and really global brands from those students who come out of the institute. Just like it was expected of London College of Fashion, or from FIT, or from University of Bocconi, or the Politecnico di Milano, and most of them were single campus institutions. And there is a very interesting evolution which happened to most of these institutions. So I want to get into one or two such important aspects of this institutional expansion across India, and how some of the pros and cons of this has been looked at. For example, when NIFT was shifting to the Hoskas campus, it was very difficult to get land in the heart of the city, and it was with great difficulty the management got about 3.5 acres in Hoskas, and the famous B.V. Doshi was appointed as architect. And knowing that Hoskas is a Kund area, which is representing many talabs or various ponds, the entire architecture looked inward, and it created a campus which will have an atrium, which will have ramps running around in the form of corridors of the classrooms. And it was a very interesting architecture, and the boardroom almost hung out into the courtyard. I remember that senior faculty, 3 or 4 of us, were invited by the management to plant trees in front of the courtyard. And I think in my name, in Asha Bakshi's name, in Rajesh Beda's name, there are trees still, grown-up trees in the campus. Now that showed that there was a emotional attachment with the faculty student, the shishak, or the taught and the teacher and the taught, which was really a commendable kind of starting point for an architectural or a design or that kind of school, where you needed a lot of skills to be imparted. Now, when the question of expansion came to Bombay, to Calcutta, to Bangalore and Chennai, there were intense discussions which were held whether NIFT would be diluting its quality. And notwithstanding that, I think the Ministry of Textiles felt that, being a large country with different textile traditions, NIFT should have roots in different states. And it was initially thought that there will be 4 additional campuses, and that is how the Bangalore and Chennai campuses. And I remember traveling quite often to Bangalore to, as representing the management, to talk to the government to get the land. Finally, we got the Koramangala land, for example. And initially, Chennai land, we were looking at the CLRI's excess land. We also approached Anna University land, and we went back and forth in Chennai also with the government. Finally, the government allotted where the current near the Tidal Park, where the current campus is located. Similar thing happened in Calcutta and Hyderabad. Calcutta was envisioned as a architecturally round building, and Hyderabad was more like a gallery extending to the main gate. So it was all very interesting architectural, and I think in Bangalore, Chandravarkar did a good job in Koramangala. So the campuses came up, and you can see that today there are 16 or 17 campuses. There are people who argue that the expansion has not helped in terms of promoting those global brands or creating globally, recognized designers. And mostly they are talking in the first 10 years, the people who came out, whether it is Ritu Berry onwards to Narendra Ahmed to Sabyasajis, next the second generation which came out. And then there has been a big gap after Masaba and few people who came through the Gen Next, which was not really through the NIFT route. So you find that there is a question mark whether the excellence and quality and quantity can go together. However, the argument which is in favor is that the handloom traditions, the embroidery traditions, the handcraft traditions, which are all different. For example, right now the NIFT Patna is celebrating indigo, the Champaran connection, and how the indigo can be celebrated in a campus. So obviously it has got interesting dimensions if the local roots are grown by the institute, and then you give the interpretation and bringing the motifs and bringing the local culture and ethnicity and telescope it to the global stage. If it happens, certainly the campus expansion is justified. However, it also has its downside, because often the students, the intensity of 1:100 or 1:500 people earlier in terms of selection, when it becomes that you are actually taking practically most of the people who apply, except that the centers may be far flung, and few centers like Delhi or Gandhinagar and Bangalore and Chennai and Calcutta become mostly the students of quality congregating, then it is not necessarily a good idea. So you need to really look at how quality can be consistent and how the local culture can be promoted, and where the students need to really work on, because the time when NIFT was set up in 86, before the globalization began, and today's millennials who have come into the forefront, these are two entirely different era. And from the haute couture and bridal kind of fashion focus of the earlier years, and from Indian ethnicity, you need to now look at Zara's and Mango's and H&M and Marks and Spencer all being available right now in India, the Vero Modas and Forever 21 and also the online fashion being available. So obviously you need to now look at pret-a-porter and ready to wear in a different context and create styles and fashions on a very quick cycle. Because today the world is not waiting for you. In every 2 weeks, store fits are changing, store presentations are changing, collections are changing. The students need to be therefore taught a lot more digital technologies, a lot more modeling techniques which are available today through the softwares. So it is a changing situation, and that needs to be now factored in whenever you look at the institute. I also want to just take you to the NID's campus expansion, because NID always considered the people who set it up and the people who grew with it and the faculty and the students never ever imagined that NID should anywhere be except in Ahmedabad. Though it was not that it was meant to be in Ahmedabad originally to be set up. Jawaharlal Nehru, from what I understand from the archives and from the various publications, it was a toss between Bangalore and Ahmedabad. In fact, it was almost decided that it will be set up in Karnataka. However, Vikram Sarabhai, Gautam Sarabhai and the whole family and Jawaharlal Nehru's conversations led to the Sarabhais exerting influence on the municipal corporation of that time, and allotting this 26, at that point in time about 32 acres originally on the bank of Sabarmati. And Paldi and Kocharab were two small villages which were really on the adjacent to the Sabarmati river. And if you really look at the tomb, the situation of the hockey or football ground, which was the place which was allotted by the municipal corporation, you can see that it was on the bank of Sabarmati, and the travelers used to come and stop at Paldi and Kocharab, and they used to make tents there, and maybe the animals which they came on, whether it is camels or whatever other animals, carts which were brought in, were allowed to rest there. And it was very interesting that this entire ground, when it was vacated and then given to NID, it was just adjacent, and the bridges were crossing just around that, and it became later an iconic place to look at. That also led to the belief that because Charles Eames and Ray Eames were invited by Jawaharlal Nehru to come to India and study the design of the small-scale industries and what ails Indian design and why it cannot create global products. And from there, the investigation of an Indian design idiom started. And therefore, everybody believed that there should not be any other NID anywhere else. This was the mindset. And when I took over, probably I would have also gone along with the way. But in 2000 June, I took over, and 2001, 26th of January, it all changed. Because there was a major earthquake, which was 7.6 on the Richter scale, and more than 1,200 buildings in Ahmedabad collapsed, and about 92 pillars of NID's structure, architectural structure, almost broken. You could see the iron being bared because the cement all fell out, and the single coconut tree kind of one pillar holding the crown of almost a 40-meter span of the crown of the building was a scary thing, because most of the things looked as if even IIM's almost all the arches of Louis Khan had almost broken into pieces. So with that kind of a thing, when I looked at it, suddenly the campus looked very perishable. And to me, the floods coming from the Sabarmati, because of that, the stilted architecture, so that the water does not enter. And then this, because it was stilt, and the stilt really shook and created more than 92 pillars being affected, and including the hostel warden's house collapsing. I think Suharsha is still there in the campus, and she would bear me testimony. She almost escaped just by narrow hair's breadth. So it was a very scary period, and I have written extensively about that in the Design Plus magazine. This led me to think that this one campus, if you look at the future of this institute, maybe that the building itself, how far it will be staying, though we got an assurance later and we got it all retrofitted through extremely advanced architectural intervention. However, it made me think about a new campus. And we approached at that point of time the government, and the government sent a team to look at the campus, and they felt that, look, there is a lot of idle spaces. Behind the director's residence, there was a large plot which was called backfield, and then there was the front courtyard area. There was BBC, which was a basketball court, and there were a lot of such areas. People said that, look, you can expand within, why do you want extra land? However, I did not give up, and we went on looking at how we can get more land and create a new campus. The other point concurrently happening was the introduction of 17 postgraduate programs, and with that kind of constriction of not expanding the undergraduate program students' number, and their capacities being hardly about 90 to 120 students being taken per year, and then to add another 17 programs with at least 20 people each, adding another 250 people, the campus would have been really difficult to manage, and you needed a campus. So this we started not telling as a replacement for an earthquake-affected campus, but as a new policy. We took it to the board, and Chairman Mr. Hasmukh Shah supported that, and we together met Honorable Chief Minister of that time, Mr. Narendra Modi, who is our Honorable Prime Minister now. And he gave us a patient listening, and I remember twice meeting him. And Mr. Ashok Bhatt was the Finance Minister at that time in Gujarat government, and Mr. P.K. Lahiri was the Chief Secretary. And while we were discussing this, to our request for a land, After the Chief Minister gave the patient, listening to that particular request, one day I got a call from P.K. Lahiri. And Mr. P.K. Lahiri will bear me out on this episode. He told me that, Dr. Koshy, I want to come and meet you at your office. I said, sir, I will come across and meet you. There is no problem. You tell me the time. He said, no, I am coming with the Revenue Secretary, Finance Secretary and Expenditure Secretary and few others. I said, a whole team like that? I said, okay. So Gujarat government, such senior people along with the Chief Secretary coming did ring some alarm bells in my mind. But I said, okay, sir, we will wait for you. And they made a visit. And the visit was I don't think it has been registered anywhere, except that I must have told few people here and there the occasion. The whole team instantly asked me how many acres is this and how old is this campus, and generally the tomb, which is about from 450 BC probably. It is a very old tomb which is found there, and it was supposed to be protected by the campus ever, and all this was discussed. And then they suddenly asked me that we are having large plans on the Sabarmati side, as you know. So what about shifting this entire campus to Kolaveda? I think I'm pronouncing correctly. We will give you 400 acres of land there, and also give you probably initial amount to construct a campus, and rest you can of course seek your ministry's approval to get that money. So I was more than shocked. I was completely taken aback for a few minutes, and he said that he and all the officers seemed to be, it was in the boardroom of NID, this meeting took place, partly in my room, and then we shifted to the room because they wanted to talk at length. So they had this proposal, and I said, see, this is an iconic campus. All around the world, people say the Charles Eames campus, people almost call this, and it is like the Central Park of New York. If you take away this greenery and this beautiful campus from this area, it will be like a big hole, created in the heart of Ahmedabad, and it is not a good idea. It will have a major storm across the design community, and it would be not a wise idea to do that. So he said that, okay, I leave this thought with you, and then they went off, and then they called me and asked me to send a formal objection if I have on this matter. So of course I had to consult the chairman, and then I formulated the arguments why it cannot be done. The arguments of its historicity, arguments of its connection with Jawaharlal Nehru, connection between Charles Eames and Ray Eames, and the historical evolution of Indian design, how it has become very much connected to this campus's history. So it was not about creating another campus, but for an old legacy institute to look at a new campus was a very, very violently emotional issue. People, as they started hearing the whispers that there will be a new campus being thought about, itself started making groups telling that it is not a good idea, it should stand as a single standing campus, and it should not dilute any by setting up any campus anywhere else, etc. So meanwhile, we again met the government, and the government finally acceded. I don't want to go into the details, but I was in US, in California, visiting Cal Polytechnic and various institutions when the cabinet meeting of Gujarat government took place, placing our request for the land. And they had alerted me that wherever it is the call, when it comes, you must pick up the call. And as expected, the call came. It was luckily a 11 a.m. Call when I got it, I think. And they asked me, the cabinet is right now meeting, these are the questions. So they went on asking many things, again, because there were, it seems, two arguments. One being a central government institution, why should it be given free, the land? And therefore, they should be paid. I don't want to go into who are the people who argued for or against. But there was certainly the Honorable Chief Minister's very clear direction in the cabinet meeting, as I understand, that IAM and NID have done a lot of contribution to building Ahmedabad's reputation and its brand name, and therefore these institutions' growth plans we should support, and it should be given at 1 rupee. And it was given 1 rupee, the 15 acres, beautiful land. I had personally gone and along with a couple of our board members and selected the corner plot which is today, a great, crown on the head of NID. It has come out as a beautiful piece of land. And now the campus was built, the first phase was built between 2006 and 8, 2005 and 2008. And now it is, to my knowledge, it has been expanded and finished. But the critical point which I wanted to say was that subsequently, when people look at this incident, they may not know that it was a very difficult decision, because the government had certain views, the faculty and students had certain views. We had to look at the practicality of looking at the future. Today, when Gandhinagar has become the international financial capital which is being promoted, or the Mahatma Mandir where the new textiles 2017 is going to be held, or various events are congregating, and Chinese Premier had visited along with the Honorable Prime Minister, whole Gandhinagar has become a center of, you could not have really forecast this in getting this far. And it was all started with the first Vibrant Gujarat Summit, where we could sign the agreement between the government, and later the entire transfer of the land took place, and rest is history. I still remember with a great amount of sadness that when the Vibrant Gujarat Summit, one part of it was being held in the NID auditorium, we were asked, or I was asked by the government at that time in Gujarat government, to sign the agreement with the government. And while I was about to leave from my room to go to the auditorium on top, a group of faculty came in, and a couple of them I asked them to wait. One senior person I called in, the lady faculty member who was in charge of textiles at that time, said that, you should not sign this agreement, and we don't want a new campus. So I knew that this, if I give in, this is going to be a matter which is going to be a toss-up. So I had to tell in very certainly unequivocal terms that the decision to have a new campus is not the prerogative of the faculty members alone. It is the board, it is the government, it is the people, the stakeholders, everybody has looked at the future. And they've already looked at, we want to have this campus. And the government is telling it will be a part of a overall Vibrant Summits MOU. It is a decision which has to be supported. It is not that you can come in, and I don't think one individual faculty member's approval is required to go ahead, because the board had already approved this. And with a little bit of this rough and difficult communication, I had to go to the auditorium and get the equanimity back and sign the agreement. And when we look at it, I have no remorse, no regret that one had to take that hard decision, because NID's future has been created, and we had seen, while I was there itself, the students coming out of that campus were superb, from the software interface design to various new programs, information design, and the new programs created. They have done outstanding work in the last few years. And from what I understand, both the R&D campus in Bangalore, which also came out in 2003, which was the first extension of NID, and in the second extension of to the PG campus, both have worked out and have stood the test of time. Just as much as NIFT's expansion, to some extent, it has also helped in creating the fashion's reach to nook and corner of India. And the students who are now coming out from far and wide of India, and they have really taken the message across. And the number of boutiques which have come up, and almost 25 to 30% growth which the domestic industry is now getting into. Though the export industry was the original beneficiary, this actual benefit has gone into the domestic industry's growth by large number of NIFT designers and garment technologists and marketing people, all working towards the growth of the textile and garment industry. So the expansion of campuses, organic expansion, historic expansions, and the forced expansions all have happened in India, and some of them have worked out well, and some of them are yet to evolve into the stage where it can take the stage in the sunshine of fame, glory of being a great campus. In my opinion, a campus just outpasses classes and classes of students, and every generation of student who pass by that particular campus has an umbilical cord to that particular institution and its surroundings. Therefore, it's very important that we consider these campuses far more important than the individuals and far more important than the people. And it should always represent the cause of the students, the cause of the purpose of the institute behind it. I hope all these campus expansion stories will be, will be examined in different dimensions by the managements rather than just thinking that it is a given and going forth.